Should be rolling. Um, so just to review and to deprecate myself, um, the previous games there were the the good endings were alongside the bad endings. They were next to each other. So you wouldn't get any kind of ending until you got to the end, right? Um, it's as if you wouldn't tell if you got the good ending or the bad ending until you got to the very end. And sometimes a decision at the very end would determine whether that was you got the good end or the bad end. And over 90% of the plot up until either one of those would be the same. This game is a bit different, and that they decide to scatter in here these bad endings that you could hit intermittently, it appears. It's kind of like this minefield you have to tread through as you go through the game. And it can be terminated early. So and if you're really good, I suppose that it's something of merit if you manage to get all the way through without hitting any of the bad endings on your first try. So there is, being bad endings, there is a sense in which you can feel like when you hit a bad ending that you've messed up, right, and be embarrassed about it. But it is content, so I don't know, like, if I feel like I messed up if I hit a bad ending, it kind of comes in and out, and I'm not really sure if that's really the case, because it's content, right? It's part of the game. It's part of the bad endings are part of the story. If you hit bad endings, I don't know how much how much you can really judge somebody for that. But anyway, I got my first bad ending because I did not take the pills. Because if honestly, if you were trying to prevent yourself from getting murdered, would you take sleeping pills or not take sleeping pills? I would not take sleeping pills if I thought I was going to get murdered, right? But somehow, if you do not take the sleeping pills, you get murdered. If you do take them, you don't. I'm not even sure what the mechanism behind how that choice works is, as everything really seemed the same except that I didn't get murdered. So, it's kind of a counterintuitive choice. I managed to hit a landmine here. Then this one was kind of a silly one, but basically it had to do with the drifts. So I always if I'm going into the drifts, I always just walk forward because eventually you'll get to Matoro's hideout, hunting hideout, or Hermit's house, or the Temple of Peace, or something like that, right? You just keep going into the drifts. You don't just turn around and give up. And so, based on the precedent I know that you always keep going into the drifts, I just kept going into the drifts and I got lost and died. Um, and then this one here, Mayuzumi's about to hit you with a pickaxe. And you have the option of either just standing there and seeing if she'll actually hit you with the pickaxe or tackle her. And in the real world, you would think it would make the most sense to tackle her because if someone's going to hit you with a pickaxe, they're going to hit you with a pickaxe. They're just going to stand there and get hit with a pickaxe? It's actually an ice axe, not a pickaxe. Not quite the same thing, because ice axe is for ice and a pickaxe is for rocks. But whatever. Ice axe? No. And I thought of maybe this is like the story thing where you do that, like where it's like, I know you don't have it in you to hit me. And it wasn't worded exactly like that. It's worded differently where Mayuzumi's like, why are you so strong? But I thought it might be something like that, but then I just, for some reason, decided, I don't even know why in hindsight, to pick the tackle her, and it was wrong. And then died without returning. This is because I chose to offer to carry Uni, which, if you take the hint that the scene title is The End of Self-Sacrifice, you wouldn't do that. And I noticed that, and I noticed the hint, and I think I probably mentioned it at the time, but for some reason I just didn't take it, and stuck with the precedent of the types of decisions you'd make to get the good ending, and just ignored the hint, which is really weird. I don't know why I did that in hindsight. Obviously, these things seem like they would have been really obvious in hindsight in general. Okay, and then last time we got the new information that Uni's charm and the scar on his forehead came from Insphia, which indicates that not only is his soul chronologically later from when he was in Sphia, we know that because he has memories from Sphia, but also his body is a later version of his body than the body we see in Sphia. And because there isn't, I don't expect, it's theoretically possible, but I don't really expect there to be able to, bodies be able to, like physical objects to be able to time travel in an Ushikoshi game. I say I don't expect it. There is a game I know of that has a mechanism by which that could happen, and I know that in Never 7, Karumi gets transported forward 4 years somehow. So they have, it does happen, but it's not something you really count on because it's very rare. So it strongly suggests that the incident in the shelter cabin we're experiencing as Kokoro happens chronologically after the incident in Sphia. And I don't really like that because if there really was an incident in January of 2011, the stuff in Sphia is happening after January 2011, which has to be the case because Kelly knows of Yomogi and Kokoro's deaths. You could argue that she just thought they died in the plane crash and she knows about the plane crash, but she wouldn't know about the plane crash because there isn't anything that gives her that kind of information, right? That news is not on the radio and it's not on the TV either. So it suggests that Callie didn't simply just knew about the plane crash, knew they were on that plane and thought they just died in the crash. She actually, we're actually experiencing a Callie that's later than the plane crash and found out about it afterwards somehow from like a supply truck. So Sphia seems much late. And also you have to deal with the teleporting body of Uni, right? How did Uni get into Sphia if how did Uni be in Sphia on the 11th if the plane crash happened on the 11th? His body wouldn't get there that fast, right? He would have to go through the entire January of 2011 incident and not get rescued till the 17th or the 16th. So Sphia has to happen later than the January 11 incident. The January 11 incident we expect happened because it was in the newspaper that it happened. And everybody on the plane thought the plane crashed on January 11th. So that forces there to be a true incident on January 11th and a second incident later than the Sphia plot line, which requires there to be two incidents, one replicating the other. And going back to why I said I don't like that. I don't like that because a recreation plot was already done in the immediately previous game in the series, Ever 17. You might go, okay, well, should that be a hint that it is that? But the thing is, Ever 17 tried to do meta tricks on you. It tried to throw you down a red herring where you thought that you were caught in an infinite loop in the same way that Ever 17 is Never 7 is an infinite loop. So in Ever 17, they try to give you it's just like Never 7 red herring, in the kids route in particular. So if in Remember 11 I see something that looks like doing something extremely similar to Ever 17, I expect that to be a red herring. I expect it to be a trick, right? Where the authors know I'm thinking along those lines because I just played that previous game. And so they're tricking me into thinking it's the same thing again, but it's not. So I'm really hesitant to put down a guess and say, I think that the incident in the shelter cabin is a recreation of a past incident because that's something that they want me to think. So that's the long implication to leading to no conclusion whatsoever on my part on what we now know about Uni from the previous recording. Anyway, hopefully we're going to get close to the end here. Let me look at the scenes. We skipped a scene between the did break out into small respite, and skipped some more scenes. That's interesting. Okay, 61 is where we're at. We haven't started yet. I presume there's about 120 because... Oh, there's way more than 120. Okay. Maybe we're not close to the end. We're on the 16th. We're on the 6th day, though. So you could also give me hints as how is the images, right? How many of Kokoro's images have we gotten? So we got this entire page. Oh yeah, we got 5 more to go. Well, I'll just go anyway. I was hoping this would be like half an hour of recording. Phooey. Might be more than half an hour. Thought I was just gonna have to do the. Wait a second. Is there a save problem? We're only on the 14th. Oh my goodness. Okay, I'll record for a little bit. We're way far away from the end here. The night was long. Far too long. Light broke through the night. A blizzard outside raged on and on. The demonic screams of the wind rocked the cabin and shook the windows. At this point, the only thing that can penetrate the storm is a miracle. I mean, we'd think we'd have to be close to the end because there is no food. Now, in reality, you do not starve to death immediately after running out of food, right? It takes a couple days. I think a week maybe? It depends on how fat you are, honestly. 40 days and 40 nights, I think, requires divine intervention. Anyway, it takes a while, right? But the way this is written, this is a Japanese visual novel. You wouldn't think they would draw that out, like that whole process. These guys start sweating pneumonia and stuff. Hugging her knees, Mayuzumi kept shivering as she sat there with a vacant look in her eyes. The several layers of blankets which she was using to cover herself didn't seem to be helping at all. Weak groans escaped her lips along with the sound of chattering teeth. And again, I'm like, why doesn't the shelter cabin have 0-degree bags in it? What good is it if it doesn't have those things? Yagomi was sitting on his bed, flicking his lighter open and shut continually. His eyes, now devoid of their flame, stared blankly at the stove. I wonder if he, wouldn't he run out? Oh my goodness, that ticking sound. Okay, I gotta go on to the next line. Annoyed with the sound of Yagomi playing with a lighter. Yagomi had been pestering Yagomi with a shaky voice to stop since some time ago. I understand how she feels. This isn't me clicking a pin into the microphone like usual. This is legitimately a sound effect. Yeah, I was saying that he would run out of cigarettes eventually, correct? And then he would get nicotine withdrawal, and that would change his mood to some degree. But Yomogi hadn't stopped. He's probably doing it so that he doesn't fall asleep.
この音が鳴っている間は、僕が君たちを起こす。
As long as you can hear the sound, I'll keep all of you awake.
この音が止まったら、僕を起こしてくれ。
But if this sound stops, then you all have to wake me up. Metallic sound was like the last form of resistance from a human whose flame of life was about to be snuffed out by the fury of nature. It was by no means pleasant to the ears, but it was the sound of civilization. Could you stop with it now, though? It was absolute proof that we were still alive. It was our heartbeat. It keeps going. Uni was sleeping in my arms. He had been in a dangerous state of hypothermia, but his body temperature was slowly rising. The heat was returning to his hands and feet as well. According to Yomogi, he was lucky to have survived without losing any fingers. When I heard that, I breathed a huge sigh of relief. Curled up in a ball, Uni's soft breast can be heard as he slept on. Even though it's dangerous to sleep while suffering from hypothermia, it would be even more dangerous to waste his strength at the moment. It should be okay to let him sleep as long as I wake him up every 30 minutes. Wrapped in my blanket, I stared at my beloved watch, which had been completely scratched up by now. In this long night, which almost felt like it would last for eternity, I thought about many, many things. This looks like the bad ending screen, which is worrying. For example, I opened and flipped through the 20 years of my life like an album. Elementary school, when I wrote a love letter. High school, when I found out a senpai I really admired had a girlfriend and cried all night. Going drinking with my friends in the same class and then going overboard with the alcohol, resulting in a terrible hangover the day after. All of them were just simple everyday things. But when I think back to them now, all those days sparkled brightly like precious jewels. Huh. It's kind of an interesting image. Like, it looks kind of like a face. It kind of looks like two people bundled together. It reminds you kind of like twins in a womb. All kinds of things. Perhaps dying will make all the memories I had accumulated inside me disappear. Perhaps everything will return to zero. All that will remain is the inorganic record that I was once here. As oil. And the pieces of memories I have left in the hearts of those who knew me. That'll be all. I don't want to lose those simple, yet irreplaceable, priceless memories. I don't want to die. I really, really don't want to die. Besides that, the long, long night made me ponder many other things. One thing that dominated my thoughts was the situation with Satoru. All about what Uni had said in Sphere. You killed him. Satoru killed that man. And this comes back to the closed cast thing. Right, so previous Infinity games have been what I call closed casts, which means they don't introduce new characters to explain things. The mastermind has always came from the set of characters that have been introduced to you. There's been a character that has sprites. This man here we see wearing a Western suit with dark hair. It's hard to tell because you can't really see his face from this angle, but like seemingly no beard. He doesn't have any sprites. They did something very unusual. They seem to introduce a character in this genre. Now, he could be someone we know. Like, he could be Yogomi, because Yogomi only has a beard because they had to kind of average. Like, he apparently wouldn't have had a beard, but then his beard would grow over time as he stayed in the shelter cabin over 6 days. And they made it in the sprites. They didn't want to keep changing the sprite, so I think they put like a compromised stubble on him in his sprite to kind of average out his beard over those days. So I guess you could say this is Yagomi potentially. You would think that they would draw him so thin, though. You go, it's Takeshi. Ooh. Uni witnessed it. That was why he was so frightened when he saw me in Satoru's body. I believed in Satoru, yet things have happened that have made me lose faith in him. Well, we don't know what the circumstances are before him stabbing this person, right? It could be that this person was holding the knife and he turned the knife back on him. However, the person we saw holding the knife at the end before we switched didn't seem to have sleeves. You could see pretty far up that person's forearm. I once thought of Satoru as my partner, a partner with whom I shared the experiences of the strange personality exchange phenomenon. In a snowy world where no one else could be trusted, he was the only person I believed in. Yet, he had killed someone. Because I was tossed right back into the blizzard, I haven't had the time to think about it. But now that I have, it's really frightening. Satoru, he killed that man. No, it wasn't Satoru. The murderer simply cannot be Satoru. Because the person who held the blade was Hotori, not Satoru. Uni must be mistaken somehow. Well, he wasn't holding the blade last we checked, but we don't know what happened when we were not Satoru. He could have ended up with the blade somehow. And Hotori could have just picked it up afterwards. After struggling with it, that's the final conclusion I came to. But what about the rations? He went and ate all the rations by himself. Well, in someone else's body, too, is interesting. Like, he didn't do it to save himself, he did it to save Kokoro. He ate Uni and Yogomi's rations, too. It makes sense that he would be, like, in love with Kokoro if he got, like, swapped into her body. I hadn't told him that hardtack was for the three of us, so it was partly... Nope, I read it wrong. I read the rest of it wrong, which made me think there was a typo when there really wasn't. I was partly at fault. But I never thought that Satoru would secretly eat all the rations without telling me anything. No way. As far as I could tell from the notes he left, Satoru is a very reasonable person. Even locked up in the shelter cabin, I don't believe he's the type of guy who'd eat all the rations on a whim. So there's like a third person swapping in? Maybe he had some special reason. Thinking that he might have left some messages that would serve as a clue, I tried playing the VR. But unfortunately, there wasn't anything unusual recorded on it. Flipping through my head quickly, I thought back over everything that happened during these 5 days. Now that I think about it, when Satoru had eaten the rations, back then he had gone outside. That's right, I'm sure that I was outside the cabin when I transferred back. That happened to you twice, actually. I don't know exactly why Satoru went outside, but perhaps he had gone out there to do something so that we could all make it back alive. Maybe he had to eat the rations because of that. What a convenient explanation. But then you interrupted what he was doing. If Mayuzumi heard that, she would probably double over laughing. But I want to believe him. That's why I decided to think of the problem with the rations as something that couldn't be helped. I believe in Satoru. Even if everyone else in the world loses faith in him, I believe in Satoru. Because Satoru is my partner. Despite never being in contact with him, we're very close. It's as if he's my other half. So I'd presume that, the word that they're Japanese word that they're translating to partner here in English is something that doesn't really have anything to do with like a romantic partner, right? It's just like a teammate is how they put it, right? This would be another kind of way to translate it, maybe. But he's my other half is a very, that's another expression that suggests like they're married or something. It's like something you use to describe someone you're married to is like, they're my other half, or they're my better half. Anyway, again, it's probably a coincidence because it's probably literally like he's my other half in Japanese, and the Japanese don't really use that expression that way. Our relationship is the only thing that's keeping me sane. Ever since arriving at Sphia and the shelter cabin, I've become much more unstable. With nature's wrath, the shelter cabin, and the murderous monster at Sphia, no normal person would be able to act like everything was okay. But thinking back, I realized it's because Satoru was here, because he was so calm, that I was able to keep my sanity. Maybe Satoru kind of knows more about what's going on. Satoru. I wonder if Satoru is okay. You left him in not too bad of a state, right? You left him talking to Uni. And he's like, dropped in a conversation in the middle. I was like, why is Uni pointing at me? I wonder if Satoru is still alive. I want to see him and talk to him. I want to hear his voice. Or you want to, well, I've already used his voice box. You want to hear him using his own voice, right? To hear how he uses it. I want to touch his hand. Satoru. My partner. My irreplaceable partner. Uni woke up in my arms. Slowly he opened his
ま
eyes.
だ時間じゃないよ。もう少し寝てても。
Hey, it's not time yet. You can sleep a bit longer. Uni shook his head.
ううん。もういいよ。
It's okay. I've slept enough.
寝すぎで頭がウニになっちゃいそうだよ。
If I sleep too much, it'll make me dumb, right? No, if you sleep too much, that can increase your risk of heart attack, I believe. But it doesn't hurt you in any other real way. And most people don't sleep enough. Like, sleeping too much is a very specific problem to have and kind of a nice one to have because most people have the opposite problem.
体は平気？
Do you feel
ど
okay?
っかおかしいところはない？
Does any part of your body feel strange? Unless he means by that makes you mute, then he's totally full of nonsense. Does any part of your body feel
平
strange?
気だよ。元気ピンピン。
I'm okay. I'm full of energy now. Which to describe which use peen peen, which sounds like some sort of what do you call those things? Mimetic words. But anyway, even though he still looked cold, he had a bright smile on his face. Can I stop worrying
今度は
now?
ココロンが眠ってよ。僕が起こしてあげるから。
Kokoro, you can sleep now. I'll wake you up.
まだ大丈夫。
Don't worry, I'm still okay.
眠れないなら僕が子守歌歌ってあげようか。
If you can't sleep, how about I sing you a lullaby? I presume it's going to be the same one as before. Unless we're going to get this weird callback that's unexplained.
眠れ、眠れ、眠っちゃえ。
That's not it. Sleep now, fall asleep.
どんな歌なのよ、それ。
What kind of song is that? It's rather up-tempo. I smiled slightly. At the same time, I was surprised by the fact that I was even able to smile. It's the first time I realized that people can still smile even in a situation as dire as this. Okay, that was a short scene.
あ、そうだ、忘れてた。
Okay, man-made miracle. Oh, that's right, I forgot. Throwing off his blanket, Uni jumped to his feet. Isn't that a contradiction? Whatever, continuing. Man-made miracle?
ねえ、セイジ。
Hey, Seiji. Yes. Yomogi slowly raised his head.
ユニ、お前まだ寝てなきゃダメじゃないか。
Uni, shouldn't you be sleeping a little more?
僕のことなら大丈夫。
Don't worry about me, I'm fine.
そんなことよりも、
More importantly,
もう一度電話かけてみようよ。
try the phone again.
電話？
Phone?
電話？
Phone?
電話ってあの衛星電話のこと？
He knows what time, right? Phone, you mean the satellite phone.
そうだよ。
That's right. 3 days ago, Yogomi recovered a satellite phone at the scene of the plane crash. If he were able to get through to someone with a satellite phone, we could let them know our location. Then a rescue could be requested. But according to the newspaper article, no, even if we just ignore that newspaper article, the satellite that the phone needs to work can operate due to the current effects of the solar winds. Which is nonsense, but whatever. Even if this is really bad sci-fi. Even if the phone connects to the satellite by sheer luck, the chances of getting a proper connection is 1 in 1 million. Even if we were to dial once every second for 24 hours straight, it would get a proper connection only once every 11 and a half days. You could call that a miracle. The kind of miracle has, sadly, not happened yet. That's what Yomogi's failures have taught us during these 3 days, in which we tried and failed over and over again to make a call from the satellite phone.
ユニ、残念ながら電話はもうダメなんだよ。
Uni, it's really a shame that the phone is
つなが
useless.
りっこない。
It won't connect.
どうして？試してみなきゃわからないじゃないか。
Why? If you don't try, you'll never know, right? I mean, Yugomi has these extra knowledge, right? He's part of the plan, so he would know when exactly to do this. It's like, this could all be fake, right? The satellite phone might just have a timer in it, where there's like something it intentionally breaks, and then it suddenly fixes at a certain time. To kind of simulate this. And it's not actually, it's like not actually like luck. It's like intentional.
昨日繋がらなくても、一昨日繋がらなくても、さっき繋がらなくても。
I somehow had a hard time explaining that. Even if I didn't connect yesterday, even if it didn't connect the day before that, even if it didn't connect just a moment
今
ago.
は、今この瞬間は繋がるかもしれないんだよ。
Now, with this very moment, maybe it might connect.
しかし
But
かけなさい。
just dial it. Wrapped in her blanket, Mayuzumi
ユ
interrupted.
ニの言う通りよ。試してみなきゃわからないわ。
Just like Uni said, you won't know until you try.
かけてみるべきよ。
We should try dialing. Yagomi hesitated as he rubbed his chin. I thought about it. Things may certainly be as Uni had said. That's what I started to think. At this exact moment, the phone may connect. There's still a chance for a miracle.
何悩んでるのよ。チャンスはまさに今かもしれないのに、それを放棄する気？
What are you waiting for? If we try right now, it could be our chance. And you want to give up?
日本国憲法第27条1項。すべて国民は勤労の権利を有し、義務を負う。
Article 27, paragraph 1 of the Japanese Constitution. All people shall have the right and the obligation to work. Which... what?
さっさと働きなさいよ、この薄泥。
So get moving, you lame brain. But Yogomi didn't move at all. Perhaps his hopes had already crumbled away because of the exhaustion from the past couple of days.
よもぎさん。電話はどこにあるんですか？
Yomogi-san, the phone. Where is the
湯
phone?
川さんかけるのか
Furukawa-san, are you going to try?
そうです。電話の保管場所を教えてください。
That's right. Please, tell me where you keep the phone. From all this, I should remember that Demo means please. I may or may not.
電話なら僕のバッグの中にある
It's in my bag. I quickly ran over to Yogomi's bag and looked inside. I found the phone right away.
どこにかければいいんだろう。
What number should I try? 110? No. 119 isn't quite right
か
either.
けるなら山岳救助隊がいいだろ
What number to dial? Try the mountain rescue
う番
team.
号は
The number is. I dialed the number Yogomi gave me.
かかるとは思えないがね
Of course, I don't think it'll connect. The phone's speak was silent.
無駄な努力というものさ
It's just a waste of effort. Just like he said, it was useless to try. The moment that thought entered my head. Eh? This is a ringtone.
こちら八甲田山遭難対策委員会山岳救助隊
Yes, this is the Mount Hakuda Distress Response Council Mountain Rescue Team. Would someone really introduce yourself like that?
あれもしもしもしもし
Hello, is anyone there? It went through. Talk to the person, don't just yell it went through. It went through, it went through. Eh? Eh?
どうしよう。
What? What do I do? What do I do? I was so shocked that any possible response went right out of my head. I stared blankly, not knowing what to say.
貸せ
Give it to me. Yogomi grabbed
も
the
しもし
phone. Hello, hello. Yogomi yelled.
我
into
々
the phone.
は HAL18 便の乗客だ
You're passengers from HAL
墜
18.
落した旅客機だよニュースでやってるだろ
The plane that went down, it's been reported in the news,
う
right?
行方不明そういうことになってるのか
Whereabouts unknown, so that's what happened, huh?
まあいい
Well,
そ
whatever.
うそうだ
Yes, that's right.
18便の墜落地点は南八甲田の赤倉岳だ
Fast site of HAL 18 is on Mount Agakura in South
我
Hakuda.
々はその墜落事故の生き残りで生存者は全部で4名だ
We're the ones who made it out of the plane crash alive. There are a total of 4 survivors.
今は赤倉岳緊急避難小屋に避難してる
Right now, I've sought shelter at the Mount Agakura emergency shelter cabin.
ポイントはわかるだろう僕の GPS によれば北緯40度35分35秒 統計140度55分20秒。標高プラス1298メートル。
Okay, you know where that is, right? My GPS shows 40 degrees, 35 minutes, and 35 seconds latitude, 140 degrees, 55 minutes, and 20 seconds longitude, altitude 1298 meters, which apparently takes a really long time to say in Japanese.
今まで何とかしのいできたが、そろそろ限界だ。物資も底をついてしまった。
We've been able to hold out until now, but we're at our limit. All supplies have been depleted.
今すぐに助けに来てほしい。
We hope you'll send someone to help us right away.
もしもし。
Hello? Hello?
おい、聞いてるのか。もしもし。
Are you listening? Hello?
切れちまいやがった。
We got cut off. That was very inefficient. The first thing you should have said is, we are in the Mount Agakura shelter cabin. We're trapped in the shelter cabin. 4 people. Like, before you, like, you don't say, like, what you're from or anything. You just go, if I had that phone, like, even before I read that, it's not like I'm responding to what he read. In hindsight, it was like, you say, we are in the shelter, Mount Agakura shelter cabin. Done. Yomogi-san redialed again right away.
ダメだ。
But
繋がらない。
no good, it won't connect. No matter how many times he tried again after that, none of the calls made it through.
助けに来てくれるんですか？
Will they send help?
わからない。
I don't know.
わからないってどういうことよ。あんたちゃんと説明したの？
What do you mean you don't know? Hey, did you tell them everything?
言うべきことは言ったつもりだ。
I tried to tell them everything they needed to know.
途中で切れてしまったんだ。
It's just we got cut off in the middle.
向こうの返答が聞けなかった。
I didn't hear it get a chance to hear their reply.
途中から電波状況が悪くなって、ほとんど応答が聞き取れなかった。
Static was really bad. I could barely make out what they were saying.
それどころか、きちんと内容が伝わったかどうかもわからない。
In fact, I'm not even sure what I said made it through to them clearly at all.
僕の言葉をどこまで聞き取ってくれたのか。
Exactly who got my message?
それって場所とか私たちのこととか全然伝わってないかもってこと？
You mean our location, the fact we're all trapped here, none of it went through?
自信がない。
Yeah, I'm not sure it did either.
ちょっとどうにかしなさいよ。なんとかしなさい。
Wait, then think of something. Do something.
もう一度かけるのよ。
One more time. Call them again.
無理だよ、眉住。
It's impossible,
さっき
Mayazumi.
繋がったのだって奇跡みたいなものだったんだから。
The fact that we connected a moment ago was nothing short of a
奇跡
miracle.
は二度起きたりはしない。
That miracle isn't going to happen twice. Well, that's not how probabilities work, how random processes work, but okay.
貸しなさい。私がやるわ。
Hand it over. I'll do it. Lynn grabbed the phone and pressed the dial button once
つな
again.
がるわ。つながるのよ。きっと。
It'll go through. It'll go through. I just know it will.
つながらなくちゃ困るのよ。
If it doesn't, then it'll be a really big problem.
つながりなさいよ。どうしたのよ。どうなってるのよ。
Please go through. Come on. What's wrong? What happened?
つながってよ。
Go through.
お願い。
Please.
お願い。
Please.
お願い。だから。
Unegai. Interesting. Is that what you would say when you're making a request to a person too? Because with the phone still in her hand, Mayazumi eventually collapsed to her knees with tears in her eyes.
前住さん、
Mayazumi-san laid out a supporting hand to her shoulder. Her shoulders were
祈
quivering.
ろ
Pray.
う。あとは祈るしかない。
All it's left to do is pray.
僕らのことがきちんと伝わったと信じて、
Believe that our message got through
き
properly.
っと助けに来てくれる。
They're coming to help us for sure.
そう信じよ
Believe in that. Even though Yogomi's words were hopeful and inspiring, they did nothing to comfort Mayazumi. Putting down the phone, she stumbled slowly toward the bed. Wrapping herself in her blanket, she went completely silent. No, she was muttering something repeatedly under her breath. If things keep going like this, she may just lose her mind. Getting more and more worried about her, I moved closer beside her.
今度こそもうダメだわ。
This time. Oh no, the replication again. This time we won't make it.
私たち死ぬんだわ。あの新聞のように。
We'll all die, just like the newspaper article said.
何やってたんだろ
What are we doing
う。
anyway?
死に物狂いになってあがいて仲違いしてそれでも生きようとして。
Death makes people go crazy, makes people struggle, destroys the bond between them, and yet we still try to live on. Well, yeah, because we don't want that to happen, duh.
滑稽だわ。
What a joke. Izumi muttered into her blanket. She had pretty much given up. Her eyes were hollow, staring at nothing in particular. I couldn't leave her here alone in that state. I sat down in front of her.
眉住さん、
Mayazumi-san, I said softly. I don't know whether Mayazumi had heard me and decided to ignore me, or if my words hadn't reached her, but she didn't respond and instead continued talking to herself.
思えばあっけない人生だったわ。
It was such a disappointing
つ
life,
まらない人生。
a boring life,
そうは思わない？
don't you think?
いいえ、
No,
いいえ。
wait.
あの時を除いては、
Except for back
あ
then.
の時の私たちは
Back
輝
then,
いていた。
back then, we were shining.
生きる喜びに包まれていた。
Joy surrounded every aspect of living for us. Could she be talking about
サトル、
Satoru?
サトル。
Satoru. I'm not sure when it started, but Mayuzumi was now in tears.
サトル、助けて。私を助けて。
Satoru, help me. Save me. Mayuzumi took hold of my arm. She looked into my eyes. Her stare was distant, as if she was looking at something else far
サ
away.
トル、
Satoru. Satoru.
サトルに会いたい。
I want to see Satoru again. And that's why she was going on the plane, right?
もう一度あなたに会いたい。
Just one more time, I want to see you.
お願い、
Please.
会いに来て。私に会いに来て。
Come and see me. Well, he has done that, but you haven't seen him.
サトルのふりでも構わない。それでも構わないから。
Even if it's someone pretending to be him, I don't care. Even
言っ
then,
てほしいの。私を助けてくれるって。守ってくれるって。
I want him to say that he's coming to help me, that he will protect me.
どうして
Why?
どうして来てくれないの？
Why don't you come?
私のこと嫌いになっちゃったの？
Do you hate me now?
私があなたの元から去ってしまったから？
Because I left your side?
あなたを捨ててしまったから？
Because I abandoned you? The person she's looking at isn't me. It's Satoru she's seeing, begging him, pleading with him.
でも仕方なかったのよ。
But I couldn't help it.
親に逆らえなかったの。
I couldn't go against my parents.
そんなの言い訳ね。
No, that's just an excuse.
私の都合だもの。
I was just taking the easy way out.
私の勝手な都合であなたを裏切ってしまったんだもの。
Out of my own selfishness, I betrayed you.
だったら謝るから。
So I want to apologize.
ごめんなさいって謝るから。
I want to tell you that I'm sorry.
だから
That's
だから
why.
会いに来て
That's why
助けに来て
come and see me. Come and help
お
me,
願い
please. Her hands gripped my arm even more tightly. Her fingers dug into my skin. Satoru. The person she's asking for is Satoru. What she needs right now is not my consolation, but Satoru's words. If that's the case, I should try to remember Satoru's words from the messages he had left behind in the VR. Try to remember the way that he talked. Then,
リン
Lin. Eh.
リン俺だよ
Oh, are we really gonna do this? This is stupid. Oh, whatever. Lin, it's me.
サトル
Satoru?
Ah.
Yeah. I
So-
nodded. That's right. Before all the words had left my mouth, Mizumi was already hugging me.
サトルサトルサトル
She held me tight with all her strength, her arms wrapped around me. Tighter and tighter. That strength and intensity represented the strong feelings Miyazumi had for
サ
him.
トル私
Satoru, and this watashi twice, right?
あなたに会いたかった
I've wanted to see you,
会いたかったの
to see you.
あなたに会うためだけに私は生きてきたの生き延びてきたの
I tried to live, I tried to survive for just a little longer, only so I could see you again.
あなたに会うためなら何でもやった
I'd do anything just to see you again.
ひどいことも理不尽なことも嫌われるようなことも何でもやってきた
Cruel things, unreasonable things, hateful things, I'd do
他人
anything.
にどう思われようと全然構わなかった
I don't care what anyone else thinks.
だって私に残されてるのはあなただけだったんだもの
Because the only thing left in this world for me is you.
サトル
Satoru. I stroked Miyazumi's back gently as she continued mumbling into my chest. She felt so fragile, like a child, like someone so very young. Her body quivered. Lin. Somehow an incredible feeling enveloped me. It feels as if I've really become Satoru, as if I've really become someone close to her. I want to protect her. I want to save her. The feeling spread through me.
ねえサトル覚えてる
Satoru, do you remember?
もしも私が突然この世界から消えてしまったらどうするって私が聞いた時のこと
When I asked you, what would you do if I suddenly disappeared from this world?
あ
Yeah?
あ覚えてるよ
I remember. Of course, I don't know a thing about that. But I just tried to imagine that something like that did happen between the two of
そ
them.
の時あなたはこう言ったわよね
Back then, you told
リ
me
ンのいる世界を見つけるよ
I would search for the world where you were.
もしその世界が見つからなかったとしても見つかるまで探し続けると思う
And that even if you couldn't find that world, you said, I'd keep on searching until I
あ
found
の
it.
時の言葉嘘じゃなかったのね
You weren't lying when you said that, right?
あなたは私が消えた後も探し続けてくれたこうして会いに来てくれた
You'd keep searching for me if I disappeared, and one day you'd come find me, and we'd be together again.
ああもちろんだ
Of course.
当たり前じゃないか
Isn't it obvious? I stroked her hair gently.
嬉しい
I'm so glad. Her body stopped
そし
shaking.
てあなたはこう聞き返してきたわよね
And then you asked me the same
も
thing.
しも突然この世界から俺の存在が消え失せてしまったとしたらどうする
If I suddenly disappeared from this world, what would you do?
私は半年も経てばあなたのことなんて忘れてしまうって答えた
I said once 6 months had passed, I'd forget all about you. Gotta write that down. If Satoru disappeared, Mayuzumi says, in 6 months, she would forget all about him. Interesting. Very interesting.
でも忘れることなんてできなかった。
But I couldn't forget you.
あなたを失ってしまったことが辛くて辛くて苦しくて苦しくて、毎日毎日耐えられないくらいに悲しかったの。
Losing you was so painful, so agonizing. I felt an unbearable sadness inside of me each and every day.
寂しかったの。
I was so lonely.
ただの強がりだったの。
I just pretended to be strong.
嫌な女よね。
I am such a horrible woman.
そんなことないよ。
That's not true.
リンはそうであってこそのリンなんだから。
And that is what makes you who you are.
サトル、
Satoru,
お願い。どこにも行ったりしないで。
please don't go
消えちゃっ
anywhere.
たりしないで。
Don't disappear.
一人にしないで。
I don't want to be alone.
私のそばにずっといて。
Stay with me
ずっ
forever.
とずっと私を離さないで。
Don't ever leave me.
お願い、
Please.
お願いよ。
Please. Mayuzumi held me tighter and
Lee.
tighter.
大丈夫だよ。
Nin, it's okay.
大丈夫。
It's all
俺
right.
はどこへも行ったりしない。
I'm not going
ずっと
anywhere.
リンのそばにいる。
I'll stand by your side
俺
forever.
はいつだ
I,
ってリンの中にいる。
no matter what, I'll always be with you, Lin.
サトル、
Satoru. Then we talked about all the memories she had of being with Satoru. We talked on endlessly about sweet, happy memories, innocent and delightful memories, pleasant memories that made us both smile, and painful memories that tugged at our heartstrings, petty troubles that made funny stories now. And that was the history Satoru and Mayuzumi had created together. The stories that they had woven together. Like a spring gushing forth, Mayuzumi spoke. I remained silent and listened. I listened on as Satoru, not myself. I was Satoru in these moments alone with her. I watched Mayuzumi. It was there in one of her white, small, well-shaped ears. A simple earring. Could this be a present from Satoru? I slowly reached out and touched that earring. Huh? Mayuzumi gave a small jump.
ごめん。
Sorry.
平気。
No, it's
サト
okay.
ル、私の耳とかピアスに触るの好きだったわよね。
Satoru, you liked touching my ear and that earring.
私が耳感じやすいの知ってるくせに。
Though you know my ears are sensitive.
そうやって私の反応を見るのがあなたは好きだった。
You did that so that you could watch my reactions.
エッチ。
Naughty. I hope I'm not turning red. I'm Satoru, so I can't let this phase me. Self-control, self-control. Good, with that I should be alright.
それに引き換え、私は子供っぽかったかも。
Yeah, this is like really sad because this is not like the actual Satoru could have swapped in, but didn't. Like he's like missing out because he. Although I guess I was childish
い
as
つも
well.
あなたにじゃれついてた。
Always playing around with you. Surprising. The usual resolute, strong-willed Mayuzumi definitely doesn't seem like a woman that would flirt with a man. So she changed in front of me. So she changes in front of the man she loves. Now that's not it. It could be that her everyday personality is just a mask she created for herself. And this is a return to her real
あ
personality.
れ、 楽しかったよね。
Don't you think that was fun?
あれって
What do you mean by that? What does she mean by that?
あれよあれ、
I mean that.
昨日話したじゃない。
Didn't we talk about that yesterday?
ちゃ
Yesterday.
んと覚えててくれたじゃない。
You already forgot about that. There's no way you already forgot about that. What exactly is she talking about? I haven't the slightest idea.
ひょっとして
Did you, by any chance,
忘れちゃった。
forget?
そんなわけないわよね。
You didn't, right? This is bad. I have absolutely no idea what she's referring to. I'll be found out. What do I do?
ほ
What
ら
do I do?
あれよ。
Come on, it's that.
ぐるぐる
Round and round.
ぐるぐる
Round and round. It's gonna give me a choice at some point, so I gotta figure this out. Although multiple choice might help me. What did Satoru say yesterday to Mayuzumi?
うん。ぐるぐる。
Yeah, round and round.
ああ、あれね。
Right, that.
うん、覚えてるよ。ぐるぐる。
Yes, I remember round and
ほら
round.
あれだろ。よく恋人同士がやるあれ。
Is that it? The that lovers often do? No, it's sheer desperation. Now it's sheer desperation. I'll just go along with whatever she says.
そうそう。
Yeah, that's it.
浜辺でぐるぐるって。
Round and round on the beach. Okay, round and round on the beach. That's when I get washing machined on a surfboard. Round and round. Somehow this kind of scene came to mind. Satoru as the axis, he held onto Mayuzumi and swung her around and around as she clung to him. Like one of those rides on an amusement park. That must be it. Using that mental picture as a reference, I spoke tentatively. So it was something I would never imagine Mayuzumi
夜の
doing.
浜辺でぐるぐるって。
On the beach at evening, round and round.
楽しかったな。
It was so much
で
fun.
もサトルはちっとも楽しそうじゃなくて、
Satoru, you didn't seem like you were having any fun at
私
all.
だけ一人ではしゃいでたっけ。
I was the only one in high spirits.
そうだったな。
That's right.
あんなのどこが楽しいんだか。
I didn't understand what you thought was so fun about
俺
it.
にはさっぱり理解できんね。
I didn't get it at all. Although I said that, I fully understood Miyazumi's feelings. Holding onto her boyfriend, round and round. Lovers playing with the beautiful night view behind them. A world, a space, a time for just the two of them. I can understand it well. No, wait, I'm envious. That was very romantic. According to Wikipedia... No, never mind. I gotta pause briefly here. And I'm back. I had to do the thing that Kokoro is so afraid to do. After Mayuzumi laughed, she drew away from me.
いっぱい話したらちょっと疲れちゃった。
We talked a lot, and I'm a little tired now.
少し横になるね。
I'll lie down for a bit.
ああ、
Yeah.
おやすみ、
Good
お
night.
やすみ。
Good night. Lying down, she drew the blankets over her head. I caressed her back softly and stood up. Looks like she somehow regained her composure. I think she'll be all right
あり
now.
がとう、
Thank you. From beneath the blankets, Mayuzumi softly said
冬
that.
川さん。
Fuyukawa-san. Ah, she saw right through me. Despite my good deed, I felt just slightly dejected, as I thought I had put on a convincing act. But I felt thankful to Miyazumi, who went along with that, me. I felt like I had gotten a little closer to her, even if only a little. And I was glad she had cheered up. Could she ask her the previous versions of previous Satorus coming over, questions that only Satoru would know the answer to? I felt that way from the bottom of my heart. Leaving Mayuzumi, I went toward Uni. Uni was squirming under the
何やっ
blankets.
てるの？
What are you doing?
うん。こ
Ah,
れをね、聞こうと思って。
I was thinking of listening to this for a little while. I noticed he was holding a radio in his hand. Ah,
それって、前に聞いたとき、壊れてたやつ？
didn't you say that radio was broken? That's because it was.
あの時は濡れてただけだよ。
It had just gotten wet before.
ラジオの裏の蓋開けて乾かしたから、ひょっとしたら聞けるかも。
I opened the cover and let it dry out. Maybe we can listen to it now.
濡れたら壊れちゃうものじゃないの？
Didn't it break because it got wet?
あれ？ココロン知らないの？
Oh, don't you know, Kokoro? Just stick it in rice. It'll be fine.
電化製品を水洗いして修理するっていう方法もあるんだよ。
There's a way of fixing electronic appliances after they get wet. While fiddling with the radio's dial, Uni
ちゃん
said,
と乾かしてあげれば、ショートしない限り元に戻るんだ。
if you dry them properly, as long as there are no short circuits, they'll be fine. Yeah, if you get something wet once, it's not really the issue. The issue is the corrosion that happens as a result. More so. And if it happens to be live, in other words, you have to have power to it, voltage across it, whatever. When you get it wet, the short can blow out a transistor in there, like a semiconductor component in there, because it puts some current where there shouldn't be. The speaker picked up some
ほ
static.
らね。
See? Uni tried to tune it,
あれ？
but
おかしいな。
oh, that's weird.
聞こえないよ。
I can't hear anything,
やっぱり濡れたせいで。
as I thought, because it got wet.
そうなのかな。
Is that it? I mean, the speaker and the amp seem fine. Uni pointed at a red, because if it's making that white noise, right, that means that something is... It's basically like the signal to noise ratio is really poor, and so you're basically just hearing noise. But it's like amplifying it until the average power is up to a certain amount. Uni pointed at a red light, so you get all the noise amplified. Uni pointed at a red light near the upper part of the radio.
ほら、ここのダイオードが切れてる。
Look, this diode is broken.
電球切れ？
The bulb broke.
電球とダイオードは別だよ。電球みたいに切れたりしないの。
A diode and a light bulb are two different things. A diode doesn't break like a light bulb.
これが消えてるってことは、内部の線のどこかが切れてるのかもしれない。
It might be a cut wired inside the diode. That's the problem. Okay. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, the LEDs generally don't break, but LED bulbs tend to break a lot because they're just maybe some sort of intentionalness to it. The rectifier in there just goes bad. In any case, Uni was quite calm and collected. Yet I could only feel hopeless, anxious, and insecure about whether help was on its way or not. Even Mayuzumi is moping around. Yagomi hasn't said a word since that incident either. I guess he has his own troubles to deal with as well. Is Uni just pretending to be strong? No, wait. As he tries to fix the radio, he's trying to listen into news from the outside world, to see if the media is reporting anything about us. Of course, Uni is uneasy as well. I nodded my head in agreement with the conclusion that I had come to. As he tampered with the radio, Uni's frown grew
どこか
deeper.
にぶつけたのかな。
Did it get hit by something before? Yes, it did. It got thrown into something. The radio is covered with weird scratches. There's a crack in the front of it as
あ
well.
れ？
Eh? I recognize that radio. But from where? That's right, the day before yesterday. During my fight with Otori, I had thrown the first thing that had come to my hand, a radio, at her. I made the decision on the spur of the moment. Is that when it was damaged? Wait a moment. Why is the radio here cracked just like the one in Sphia? Not only that, there was the charm too. The charm he received from Utsumi in Sphia, and Uni in the shelter cabin had it as well. Additionally, the scar on his forehead. I combed Uni's bangs upward.
どうしたの？
What's wrong? Uni stared blankly at me. I could see an old wound was on Uni's forehead. This isn't the injury. Isn't this the injury that Hotori gave him the other day? It's all healed now. What does it mean? Where is this Uni from?
ねえ、ユニ？
Hey, Uni. I must up my courage and ask the question I've been wanting to ask him this while. I chose my words carefully and started to talk about the radio and the wound. Meanwhile, Uni stayed silent. With a strangely mature face that didn't suit his age, he looked at me. While keeping my voice low so that neither Yugomi or Meizumi could hear, I explained what I had experienced. Then, strengthening my resolve, I asked him,
あ
Uni,
なたはスフィアに行ったことがあるんじゃないの？
have you ever been to Sphia?
未来から来たんじゃないの？
Did you come from the future?
そんなわけ。
That's...
でも、そう考えれば辻褄の合うことがあるの。
But if you think of it, it makes sense.
ユニ、私が死体を見るって占いで言ったよね。
Uni, when you read my poem, you said I'd see a corpse.
私、本当に見たの。スフィアで。
And I did see one. In Sphia.
それって予言じゃなくて、本当のことじゃないの？
That wasn't a prediction. You knew it would happen.
ユニは未来のことを知っていたから、そんなことが言えたんじゃないの？
Uni, you said that because you know the future, right? Uni didn't answer. He just silently stared at
それ
me.
だけじゃない。
Not only that,
ほら、あの新聞のこと。私たちの死亡記事が書かれていた新聞。
see that newspaper, the newspaper article with the article about our
あれっ
deaths.
て本物だって言ってたよね。
You said that was real, right?
ユニは私たちがあの記事通り死んじゃうって知ってたから。
Uni, you knew that we would die, like in the article.
だからあんなこと言ったんじゃないの？
Is that why you said it?
ひょっとしたらあの新聞自体ユニが持ってきたんじゃ。
No, wait, perhaps you brought the newspaper here yourself. Losing my patience, I grabbed Uni, who had been silent all this time, by his shoulders, raising my voice as I continued.
お願い、なんとか言ってよ。
Please, say something.
お願いだから。私たちどうなるの？
Please, Uni, what's going to happen to us? Something fell lightly from his breast pocket. Something white soft like down. I picked it up.
これは
This is the feather that was in her hair on the plane. The feather of a white goose that was stuck in my hair that day, the day I first met Uni. The angel's feather. Because these simple words would have been so incredibly romantic. My confusion had reached its limits. The charm, the cracked radio, the cut on his forehead, and he has the angel's
そう
feather.
記念だよ。
Yes, a memento.
ココロンと出会ったことを忘れないようにするための。
So that I don't ever forget that I met Kokoron. I looked into Uni's eyes. His eyes were hollow. I don't know what he was looking at. Perhaps he wasn't looking at
ユ
anything.
ニ、あなた。
Uni, you. In bold font. Who are you?
あなたは、
You.
あなたは誰？
Who are you?
あなた、何者なの？
Who are you? All of a sudden, Yugomi raised his face, surprised at my abrupt, loud
おい
voice.
どうしたんだ？
Hey, what's wrong? At that instant. Ah! Uni let out a strange scream, jumped out of his bed, and broke into a run. He opened the door before I could stop him. No. Cold air rushed into the room. There was a roaring blizzard outside. Uni flew out into the raging storm. Uni! I chased after him in a panic. Uni was standing in front of the shelter cabin. The driving snow striking his face, he stood there looking up at the sky.
どうしちゃったの？ユニ、
What's wrong, Uni? He didn't answer.
ユニってば。
Hey, Uni. While shielding my face from the swirling snow, I called out to him again. What happened? Did my questioning cause this? Was it traumatic to
もう
him?
聞かないから。だから戻ってきて。
I won't ask anymore, so please come back inside. Hearing my desperate appeal, Uni slowly turned his head towards me. And in the furious storm, Uni smiled. Okay, he didn't poof out of existence. He made the artwork from the opening crawl.
かごめかごめかごの中の鳥はいついつでやる
Bird within the cage, oh when will you come out?
夜明けの晩に
In the evening lit by the dawn,
ずると亀が滑った
the crane and the turtle slipped and fell. I'm trying to hear anything in these, figure out something in these lyrics, but that doesn't. There's a lot of slipping and falling going on in this game. Not really slipping so much as just falling.
後ろの正面誰
Who's that behind you? Which is, well, yeah, that's how he. This is like how he met, right? He was swallowed by the raging storm.
何をしてるんだ
What are you doing? Yagomi rushed outside and caught Uni, who was still standing in front of the
また
cabin.
低体温症になるぞ
You want to get hypothermia again? Yagomi grabbed Uni and returned to the cabin with him. To shut the door, I had to practically throw my whole body weight against it.
何があった
What happened?
わかりません突然飛び出していって
I don't know, all of a sudden he went flying out. Uni had his eyes closed. Had he lost consciousness?
低体温症になると幻覚を見たり暴れ出したりするんだ
When you're suffering from hypothermia, you can hallucinate, grow restless,
そ
and
の症状かもしれない
that outburst might have been from those symptoms. Yagomi laid the back of his hand against Uni's cheek. He touched his neck and the area around his armpit.
幸い体温はそれほど奪われていない
Luckily, his temperature didn't drop that much. Yagomi gently laid Uni down on the bed. A pained expression contorted his face. He shrugged his shoulders.
申し訳ないが
I'm
さっ
sorry.
きと同じように温めてやってくれないか
Will you warm him like you did
わ
before?
かりました
All right. I embraced the senseless Uni and wrapped us up in the blankets. The limbs that had painstakingly warmed up earlier were once again cold like ice. Meanwhile, Yagomi presented us with his own blankets, as he said,
眠いようなら冬川さんも寝てくれ
If you're sleepy, you should rest too,
で
Fuyukawa-san.
も
曇っているが一応太陽が昇っている多少は気温が上がるだろ
It's cloudy, but the sun has more or less risen. The temperature will rise a
う
little.
昼間のうちに体力を取り戻そう
While it's daytime, we should try to regain our strength.
よもぎさんは
Yagomi-san, or Yomogi-san. My M&G mix-up. Anyway. Yomogi pointed at the wristwatch.
しばらく経ったら交代してくれ
Please change places with me in a little while.
それじゃあ起こしてください
And please wake me up. Yagomi looked at Mayuzumi's bed. At some point, she had fallen asleep. We could hear her weak breathing. Yagomi touched the nape of her neck. Is she checking for her heart rate? He also placed his hand in front of her mouth to confirm that she was
前
breathing.
住も少し眠らせよ
Let's let Mayuzumi rest a little
う消
too.
耗がひどそうだ
She seems to be exhausted. Yagomi reached out and started to rummage around Mayuzumi's bed. He was probably fixing her blankets. Then he returned to my bedside.
眠るんだ
Sleep.
また夜が来るそれまでの間
Night will come again. Until then. I held Uni tight and closed my eyes. Is this Uni really the Uni from the future? I want to know, but he had run away. I can't ask him any more. I don't want to burden him further. With my eyes closed, I buried my face in Uni's hair. Was it the truth? That newspaper isn't real? Is it, can we stay alive? Lots of problems swept through my mind. But, before long, I fell asleep. Like that of a newborn baby, a deep, deep sleep. Switch? Switch? They're gonna switch? Nope. And night came once again. We took turns sleeping until the sun set, but we could barely recover any of our strength. Our food, fuel, and water had been used up. The air inside the shelter cabin was so dry it was getting difficult to even breathe. Yes, the air was so cold that breathing it made my lungs cry out in pain. And when you breathed in through your nose, you felt as if the inside of it would freeze solid. Even though we had our coats on and even blankets draped over each of us, they were completely useless as protection from the cold. I couldn't stop my body from shivering like someone severely ill. It was difficult to even move my limbs. Inside the shelter cabin, all conversation between us had stopped completely. We didn't so much as utter the words, "It's cold." Our discolored lips quivered intensely inside the small cabin, enshrouded in darkness. Only the sound of our shaky breaths reminded us that we were still alive. Yuni, who was now asleep and cuddled beside Yomogi-san, looked almost as if he had stopped breathing altogether. We were at our limit. I had felt this way many times before, but it wasn't until now that I felt the reality of death drawing closer and closer. The god of death, known as Cold, had invaded the shelter cabin and was contemplating whose neck would be first under his scythe. I don't know if the phone call yesterday actually made it through, but even if it had, the rescue team probably wouldn't come for us in this blizzard. I breathed a sigh onto my frozen fingers. Are we going to freeze to death like this? Is there nothing we can do but sit here and shiver this way as we wait for death? I get caught up in this bizarre personality exchange phenomenon and die without understanding any of it. No. No. I tried forcing my voice out as if to make sure I was still alive, but that voice cracked and faded away. I prayed for it in my heart, for hope, for the hope to live on, no matter how small it may be. I wished for a light to reach out to. I wished for a light to lead the way. Without it, we were all going to be crushed by the complete darkness that enveloped us inside this cabin. End of that scene? Yeah, January 17th. Countless hours passed. This should be the... Okay, so we are to the 17th now, so this should be the end. I don't know if the blizzard outside had subsided at all. The snow that had piled up on the roof fell to the ground with a loud thud. Suddenly, Mayuzumi's lips moved. I kind of understand. I've experienced worse things than the snow falling. Like ice, like 7 feet of ice and big chunks falling into a lake, a couple hundred feet away from me in the middle of the night. Sounds like a rock slide.
日付変わったわ。
Looks like it's the next day. When I heard what she said, I looked at my watch. I couldn't see very well because it was dark, but it looked like the hands had made their way past 12 a.m.
ねえ、よもぎさん、
Hey, Yomogi-san.
なんだ
What?
新聞があったわよね。あれ、燃やして。
You have that newspaper, right? So let's burn that. The newspaper had originally been placed on the shelf. But we had broken the shelf into pieces for firewood, and the newspaper had since been shoved under my bed. I reached out and grabbed it.
すぐに燃えちまって薪の代わりにはならないぞ
That's going to burn to a crisp in seconds. We can't use that as firewood.
それでもいいから燃やして。
That's fine. Just burn it. It's symbolic. Her voice was strong and determined, surprising from someone who looked so weak. Yuni, who had been sitting right beside Yagomi, shifted his body a bit and glanced over. For some reason, he looked
ど
annoyed.
うしてそんなことするんだよ。
Why do you want to do that? When she heard the question, Mayuzumi went quiet for a moment. Then she said,
怖いのよ。
I'm scared of it. She muttered.
何が
Scared of what?
その新聞が
That newspaper article.
どうせ嘘に決まってるだろうけど、
It's obviously not real.
今日私たちが死ぬって書いてあるのよ。
But it said that we're all going to die today, didn't it?
そんな悪趣味な新聞置いておきたくない。
It's a sick joke, and I don't want it around anymore.
そんなことしても 無駄だよ。
Even if you burn it, it's still useless. Yuni's voice was strangely calm.
新聞を燃やしたって記事の内容が消えるわけじゃないんだ。
Even if you burn the newspaper, the things described in that article won't disappear with it.
そこに書かれていることは
Because every single word is true.
本当のことなんだから。
Is true.
黙れ
Shut up.
こんな時に悪い冗談やめて
Stop making such sick jokes at a time like this. Spouting off almost every hateful word in the book, Yamizumi pulled a blanket from her head.
本当のことなのに。
What is the truth? Glancing over at Yuni as he continued mumbling, I opened the newspaper. I wanted to read it over once more under the moonlight, but the moon was hidden behind the clouds. Not even the smallest bit of light made it through the window. It was so dark that I couldn't read the article. Just as I was about to ask for a flashlight, I suddenly remembered something. I took the VR from my pocket. I turned it on and pushed the switch. The display on the VR lit up and shone faintly. I could use it as a lamp. July 4th. Sometimes it say June 4th, but anyway, 4th of July, Monday, 2011. 3 decomposed male and female corpses found on Mount Agakura. Missing passengers from the HAL crash. An article from the future telling us that we died. Yuni said the article was real. Before, I probably would have thought it was a joke and laughed it off. But things are different now. There's a chance that the Yuni inside the cabin is actually the Yuni of the future. That's why his words have gained some credibility. This article, it may actually be real. If Yuni has anything to do with Sphia in 2012, it's not entirely impossible that he had brought this newspaper here. I don't know how he could have done it. I don't even know if he was the one who brought it here. But if the Yuni from the future is here, it's not all that strange that a newspaper article from the future is here as well. I really do come up with the weirdest ideas. That's meta. But because I've reportedly experienced the unbelievable phenomenon of personality exchange, or not reportedly, repeatedly, I found myself considering possibilities that I normally find impossible. It's not that I believe him, but I've come to be able to consider it a possibility. I've come a long way, haven't I? I thought as I smiled bitterly, as I accepted that this thing that describes my death is true, and so I'm going to die. I wonder why that particular set of text on the right there is crisp, while the rest is blurred out, when it seems like the article of interest is like one of the blurred out ones. Like, if you can see my cursor here, like this title, this headline here seems to correspond to this. But, like, this is the text that's not blurred. It's actually sufficiently not blurred that you could, if you knew Japanese, you probably could read it. So some of these kanji are pretty smudgy, but the hiragana you can read, and so you can kind of guess probably what kanji are in there. I'm missing that little bit of that's something I really like to do when I play like Bionicle games and things, is like read the like ciphertext, but I can't, like in this case, because I don't know Japanese, it's not really ciphertext because the people who played this game would have known Japanese. I can't read it. So I miss out on that little extra bit there. The words in that article were words of despair. But if we think about it another way, I've actually come to gain more information about the hopeless future. The events that will happen today can be deduced from the article. It may even turn out to be a big advantage. Perhaps this was the ray of hope that I have been praying for. I don't want to just sit here and wait for death to come. If we're going to die anyway, I'd rather keep fighting until I die. Even though I'm really afraid. Afraid of the threat of nature. Afraid of our destiny of death. Afraid of our despair. Just a little hope is fine, just enough for me to stand up and face death head on. I want my parents and friends to look at my death afterward and say, Kokoro did her best. Okay. Giving myself a slight nod, I began reading the article. so as to absorb every word, every sentence. I read on for my life. After reading the article for about 10 minutes, I noticed several very interesting points. I took note of a few of them. The bodies were discovered 1 kilometer east of the Mount Akakura shelter cabin. Due to the bodies of the victims being discovered away from the route down the mountain, the Aomori Prefecture police investigation into the day of their death will continue. According to the Aomori Meteorological Station, an avalanche affecting Mount Agakura and its surroundings area occurred on January 17, 2011 at around 6:53 a.m. or p.m. If this article is real, I would assume at AM if it doesn't specify, because if it doesn't specify, then it's suggesting 24-hour time. So then that would make it AM. The United States would like to call it military time. And then there's also more complication to that called, I think, universal. There's some time zone that's Trump that you use if you want to be time zone independent time. I forgot what time zone that is. This article is real. Then at 5:53 will be killed by an avalanche 1 kilometer east of the shelter cabin. Something seems kind of suspicious here. So suspicious that even the police were looking into it. Why would we go to a place like that? It's exhausting just imagining a 1 kilometer long hike through the snow-covered mountain. Besides, we already are at our physical limit. We're about to collapse at any second. So why would we head toward a place like that? In order to go down the mountain? But the article said we were away from the path down the mountain. And just in case, I turned to Yogomi to confirm it with him. Knocking on the door of hope.
もしもここから出て下山するとしたら、どっちへ進みますか?
If we went to go down the mountain from here, which direction would we go? Yogomi answered with a surprised look on his
この
face.
小屋の入り口を背にしてまっすぐに進むよ。
For the entrance to of this cabin, head straight
山
forward.
小屋ってのは下山道の方を向いて立っていることが多いんだ。
A lot of mountain cabins are built facing the path down the
小
mountain.
屋を背にして方位磁石を頼りにまっすぐ進めば下山道に行き当たるかもしれない。
If you followed the path with a compass and headed away from the cabin, you might be able to find the way down the mountain. I'm going to stop right at this weird, awkward spot. So, put up with that.
でももう僕たちには下山できるだけの体力は残ってないけどね。